So while everyone else is bringing out a small crossover SUV or something similar, Peugeot brought out something that we didn't expect, which is the Rifter. This is a sort of a change from the Peugeot TP, which is what was here before it. This is the 7-seat one, so it looks a bit longer than that. Also Citroen Berlingo, there's an Opel version of this, so they've all got a version of this car. Peugeot tried to up the game a little bit because they put some plastic fairings around the outside to give it that sort of rugged look. And then you have this rugged look on the outside here around the wheel arches. It's a big car. You can't hide the boxy shape. Neither can you hide the fact that it has sliding doors, like a van. So it is basically a van with seats. But there are some good bits to it, and I'm going to show you those right now. So hit the subscribe button and start checking out the interior. So, interior of the car. Important fact, it's a receipt for stuff I just bought a minute ago. There are cup holders up here. It took me a while to actually see them, but they are actually up there and they are very effective as well. But storage is where the Peugeot Rifter really wins. You've got the center console, which look, I put my whole arm into. It goes all the way down. It's a massive storage thing. Actually, it's probably too big. You will definitely lose things in there. There is good storage pockets in the doors. There is an upper glove box here, which is very deep, goes much further back. There's a sort of a pocket down there where the fuse box is. And up front here, I actually have a storage here, and there's a storage here behind the sat-nav as well. Storage is a big thing. Now, what you don't see as well is above my head here, because this is a van, there is actually big shelves here above my head as well for more stuff. You can't put things here that's going to fall out because they've actually got holes in them. Anyway, that's okay. Rest of the car, it's got one of these little small steering wheels that I don't really like from Peugeot. But this suits this car, it's okay, because you're sitting in such a high position being a van anyway that you're sitting above the binnacle here. Instrument binnacle is nice and bright and clear as well, high above. On this one is top spec. You got this big screen across the centre of it. Beneath that I have two air vents. Beneath that I have manual air conditioning. Standard sort of temperature gauge on this side, little wheel on that side, 1, 2, 3, 4 on it. AC in the middle, and then the various buttons across there. Then I have this eco button, which to all intents and purposes doesn't seem to do a whole lot apart from slow the car down. Traction control button, park and brake, and then this automatic wheel here for my gears. P, N, or D is all that's on it, nothing else. And then M is beneath that, which turns it into a manual gearbox. This is sort of a robotized gearbox, not as bad as the old one. I have flappy paddles on the side here. You'll never use them. You'll just go D and go. The steering wheel itself is actually quite nice. It's small, it's got flat top and bottom, which is kind of weird for me. I'm not really a big fan of that sort of thing, but it's okay. But the rest of the interior here is very good. Outstanding comfort. Really outstanding comfort. I can't really emphasize enough how comfortable this car is to drive. You will cover giant amount of range in this car and not get even the smallest bit tired or uncomfortable in it. It does have cruise control in it. This is the top spec in Ireland. There is actually more options you can stick in this car, like a tailgate that has an opening window in it and a various sort of little bits and pieces, but not much more you're going to get here in Ireland than anything else. Armrest in the centre, there's all kinds of little bits and pieces, really well laid out. Now, the critical part of why people buy a car like this is for the fam in the back. So let's have a look at the next row of seats. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, right? I don't need to turn anything off, I don't think. Just take the keys and a cup of coffee with me. So, slidey door is very useful. Parents, if you want something good, slidey door is always good because you can get yourself at an angle here to put a child into a child seat. So if you've got a big child seat here, you've got a little baby in your arms, you slide open the door, you can lean in with the baby, put it in, and there's nothing going to bang you in the back, there's nothing going to close on your hip or anything here, and you're not trying to defend against wind the whole time. This locks open. When it goes back like that, it stays like that, but you can actually pull it shut. Usually you should change that. That can be just pulled from anywhere on the door. Once it's open, you can pull it from anywhere and unlocks and rolls forward. In high winds or on hills, that will close on its own. So demerit points there, but there is actually a handle back here that you can pull, but it's actually very hard to get at, that handle, so you should pull from up there. Anyway, back seat, I have a tray table here, as you can see. I have underfloor storage down here at the very bottom. A little door that opens, you can put things under. It's very loose, that door. But I have 3 individual seats, which is very good. I have a USB port down here, very good. The middle seat just folds flat, like that. Real easy. That one does the same thing. And you can literally walk into the back here. My kids, 8, 9-year-old, can stand up here in the back. They just about touch the roof. But back there is two more seats, but up here is 3 very comfy seats. Now, these just flop down and then flop back up. No catches or handles to pull either way. Each seat has its own ISOFIX. Each seat has its own seatbelt. Really straightforward, really easy. The seatbelt for the middle row is off up there. It has its own lighting system here as well. And they have these coat hook things in there, which looks unfinished, I must say. But that's okay. That's utilitarian. We are coming from a van situation. Love this back seat setup. Plenty of room here, as you can see, between me and the seat in front of me. And my little tray table stays up. It is a pressure tray table. Not a big fan of these, because the minute you put any weight on it, it just droops and closes. So you put your cup of coffee in the little hole there, and then you put your sandwich here, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, a cup of coffee's fun now. So I'm not a big fan of them. I prefer the ones that actually click open and stay open, but that's more expensive, I suppose. Right, that is this row of seats. Now, how to show you what that row of seats look like folded up, should we figure it out in a minute. Come on, let's go. Slidey doors. They're brilliant. So I just want to demonstrate something here. You can get into this middle row, the back row, from the back door, which is quite nice. You can walk between them. But also, and there's plenty of room, I can fit a fist between me and the seat in front of me. Also, I can get into the next row by dropping the middle seat. Easy. It's a big car, guys. It's a big car. This row can be just lifted like that, if you want. Then you just pull this one, drop it down. Or you can drop that one as well. Just one click. Back in here, this goes up with one click and goes down with one click. And you can pull another handle to lift this one up completely. These ones are totally removable from the back of the car. So you can have full van space back here and have 2 spare seats whenever you want them. It's a genius design back here. Very happy with it. 10 out of 10. The Rifter is actually surprisingly comfortable. I know French cars tend to be really comfortable anyway, but this, for a van, is really comfortable. But even for a car, it's really comfortable. So this one has the 1.5 litre 130 horsepower engine coupled to an 8-speed automatic box, which is actually really pleasant to drive. Gone is the sort of seasickness feel that I used to get from the Peugeot Citroën gearbox, especially in the manual version. There is a button here, you press for M and you can change the gears yourself. Big old diesel drone there. But that's okay, because I expect a diesel drone. You know, it's not an unexpected noise. I do expect it because it's a 1.5 DC diesel, not DCI. That woman's in the middle of the road. Do you mind? Now, these aren't exactly expensive cars. This range of this car starts at about 23,950, somewhere around there. This one now is much more into the 33 to 35 grand range, as this one is the top, much higher spec version of it, and feels much more like a car and not a van with seats. Suspension is brilliant, love it. Steering is actually kind of weird in that it's really sharp. For a van, you think I need a big low-piece steering wheel, but this is actually quite sharp, and a turning circle is quite shallow. Now, like any diesel engine, when you push the engine, it's going to make noise. That is not something you can get around or get over or get through. It's just actually just going to happen, right? But the noise is quite comfortable because it's further away, it's outside. It feels like and sounds like it's out there somewhere rather than being something that rattles through the speakers in here. What I really like is the options, the choices that this car gives you, because you'll easily fit a surfboard in here. I fit at least 3 bikes in here yesterday, no problem whatsoever. Electric scooters, there's 12-volt sockets back there, there's USB ports back there. It's got lots of choices, and there is a Rifter. It's a concept at the moment, but there's a sort of an off-road version of a Rifter coming as well that'll have a tent on the roof, And you have the roof bars are all ready for a big tent or for a roof box. You've also got surfboards that can fit inside here when you flatten out all the seats. You can put in bikes, you can put in anything you want. It's the choice availability of the car is what really enthuses me about the whole vehicle. Irrespective of that, I don't know, it's not going to be the best handling one, it's not going to be the best liveliest one. That's not why you buy a van-shaped 7-seat car. You buy it to shuttle your family around in a bit of comfort, style and safety. Safety being a tiny bit of a concern, as this got 4 out of 5 stars in the NCAP rating, which is not something I normally mention, but I only mention when someone loses a star, and Peugeot did lose a star. Now, admittedly, it's not on something that's terribly critical to the occupants inside the car, but that just shines a light on where Peugeot, sometimes any car company, can get a little bit wrong when it comes to the NCAP rating. As a car I would own for my own family, yes, 100%. I think it's a really, really sensible, honest car that will do what you want it to do when you're driving around in it. I like the touchscreen interface. That kind of interface doesn't come until you start paying over the 30 grand mark. So, you know, you are going to be paying over 30 grand for this car unless you buy the standard, ordinary, manual gearbox 1.2 litre petrol one, which is, in 5-seat, is 23,950 or something like that. It's not necessarily a price-sensitive part of the market, as this is a van, not an SUV, even though it's tarted up a little bit like an SUV, but it's not one. It's still in its own sort of unique little segment in the system, and for that I like it as well, because it's not the same as every other SUV out there. It's not the same sort of a car the whole time, so I kind of like it because of that as well. Now I'm going to join the bottom half of the M11, which leads me to the M50, which is probably a bloody car park at this time of the day. Hopefully by now you've learned all you need to know about the Peugeot Rifter, and you have hit the subscribe button. If you haven't, what's wrong with you? Hit the subscribe button. This channel has grown at a rate of knots. It's brilliant, but you can join me every Sunday for the Sunday service, which has now become integral part of the entire world of the car industry out there. 2 p.m. GMT on this very channel. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon, get a notification whenever that happens every Sunday at 2 p.m. I answer questions live for 2 hours, and when I don't do it, everybody gives out stink to me as if I've done something wrong. Anyway, you can join me this Sunday at 2 p.m. Hopefully you've subscribed, and there are some links down below to help support the channel. I don't get paid by car companies for these. This does not happen. This is totally self-funded, so if you can give anything to keep the channel going, it'd be really good, but at the very least, subscribe. Until the next time, I will see you on the far side.